Hiya folks, I'm here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change my top and hopefully people will start joining us. So I will be back. Good, the stream looks good. That's good. Excellent. Oh, good. We're getting numbers building up. So here we go. Okay. Oh, wicked. We got Jessica. That's good. We got Jessica. So good. Hi, Pat. Hi, Pat and Jessica. As usual, we're waiting for a few more to join us. So can everybody like and can everybody subscribe if they're not subscribed? Just a sound check. I know my image might be a little bit fuzzy in the background, but is the sound good? That's what I want to hear. I need to just got to make sure that everything's working fine. I've had to update a few things with my computer today, so just got to make sure that everything is perfect. Good. So can everybody hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, sounds good. That's good. That's what I need. What I'm going to do, folks, is hang on there. The best thing to do is if we can make sure that we get a few more people. There's only 3 of you at this minute. So it's best if we have a few more joining us now. I'm just, everything's sort of much better this week after last week. So just stay there. That's 4 so far. So please like. And I've got a power thing with my computer at this minute. So I've got to make sure everything's operational. Thank you for that, Pat. 5. What's the building behind us? That's not exactly the Rose Red City, the building of the Crescent Moon, the Treasury. What we've got quite a number of buildings at Petra. And it's always good to have another one. And this is one of the more hidden buildings at Petra. So I've got apparently excellent connectivity at this minute. So I'm going to, everyone bear with me a minute, nobody go off. I'm just going to try and drag a couple more in. Okay, as you said, Pat, if you don't turn up at one of my classes, I've got to phone you. So what I'm going to do now, there's somebody that I need to, and there's an archaeologist in Australia that was going to join us as well today. So that would have been great. So I'm just going to make sure that everybody who was going to take part today is actually with us. So that's good. I'm just going to Instagram. I usually have a few people from Instagram join me. And Lee and Dominic. So I'm just gonna find out if they're going to join us today. It's always a warm up when you do YouTube. I found when you do this, because I've got nobody there speaking with me. So I'm gonna be right. Here we go. And I'm going to say Dominic and April, are you joining us today? Are you on YouTube now? There you go. Let's see where we are now. Numbers building, good. Quick question, did you receive my article? When did you send the article, Jessica? Was it in the last half an hour, or was it when did you send, Jessica? Okay, I haven't checked this out, so I'm gonna go on my Instagram a minute as well. See where we're at. And I'm just going to do this now. Jessica, I get problems getting on my Hotmail at this minute with the technology I'm using. But if you sent it to the Hotmail, I will pick it up. So I'm just going to on now. Bingo. On now. On now. Okay. Okay. Good. I've sent it. I think what I might do, I sent it last week. I can, resend it, please, Jessica. Right. So we've got 5 people watching. Hoping for a couple more. Please like as well. So anyone who hasn't liked, like now. I've got a drink in front of me, and that's what I'm going to do. And then we're going to get started. I think the Nabateans is a bit of a strange subject. Right. Okay. Right. So let's get to the moment. And I'm just going to contact somebody else a minute, and done, and move that there. This technology can be a good thing sometimes, but sometimes it can be very overbearing. And I'm just gonna, here we go, online now. Online now. Here we go. And who else have we got? And here we go. I'll send another one online now. See if, please share as well. Good. Right. Okay. So we are going to start. We will do this for 1 hour, and hopefully not running over. I've got lots to do today. So anyway, welcome to this session today, that we will be looking at Petra and the Nabateans. To give you an idea where the landscape is that we're going to be looking at today, let's get a bit of share screening in the background. One thing I've learned from this technology is that, not to sound vain, but when you're doing something on YouTube, it's almost as if people want to see you. So the first time I did this, I wasn't really seen on the camera much, so that was a bit of a shame. So I'm going to put a map in the background, which should be helpful for all of us to understand where we are. And bingo. There we go. There's a map. So the wonderful landscape that we find ourselves today takes us to a civilization that does still exist. The civilization of the Nabateans derived from one of the local Bedouin tribes. Now, what we have behind us is a map showing where the Nabatean world can be found. So what you've got the star up on the screen. That shows the site of Petra. And Petra itself is part of a much wider Nabatean world. You've got the Saudi Arabian Peninsula. You've got Syria to the north. You've got Egypt. You've got all those other civilizations as well. Rome, you've got Assyria, where Iraq is today. You've got the people of Anatolia, where modern day Turkey is. And Petra and the Nabatean world is at the crossroads of civilization. We've talked about the crossroads of civilizations many times, but where you see Petra, the heart of the beating, pulsating heart of the Nabatean world, it's on the crossroads between Europe, Mediterranean Sea, Egypt, Africa, Sudan, Ethiopia, Libya, big civilization in Libya around this time as well. You talk about the Arabian Peninsula, rich in spices and precious gems and stones. And then you think about the East and the Far East, and the Levant. So this is a great interchange. I'm looking at my little notes on the screen. Quick question: did you receive the article? Carl, I only do your lessons for your lovely face. Well, I only do my lessons for my lovely face as well. And Jessica, I do the lessons on a Thursday for your lovely face. And I've got to say Pat's as well, because Pat will get very upset if I don't say that. Thanks for that. So when we think about the Nabateans, what do we think about? What do we think about? What do we think about when we think about Petra? And one of the, that was a question I asked for all 6 classes that I taught Petra and the Nabateans this week. And what was overridingly coming up from individuals was that overall, when I thought about the Nabateans and Petra, a civilization that derived from the Bedouins and the ancestors today of the Bedouins, people said that the people of Petra, the Nabateans, were a wealthy people. People said the second thing that they're very much linked with trade, with all that interchange. The other thing that can be said about the Nabateans is water. Now, one of the overriding themes this week was the theme water. And hi, Aran, nice of you to join us. When we're gonna bring the star image behind me, right? And the star image is, I make sure I get this one right now, is this. Bingo. Now, this is a great image. I love this image. And actually, everybody who looked at this image this week, and I think I'm right in thinking, was in awe of this image. They loved it. And why did they love it? Because it illustrated everything that the lecture was about. And hi, Carl. Hi, Anne, Christina, and hi, my friend Marion. It is Australia, isn't it? Thanks for joining us as well. And I do believe it's 11 o'clock in Australia. So, and hopefully I got the country right as well. It's probably going to say you're in Canada. Never mind. So this image itself, I love this image, and people I showed this image to said, "Wow." It's almost as if it's an image from a set of an Indiana Jones film. Well, actually, Petra was on the set of an Indiana Jones film, The Last Crusade, and the landscape of Petra was Indiana Jones film as well. And what everybody marveled at this image was that you can see on this image the rock cut tombs, which the rock cut tombs are above the ground level area. But what's intriguing about the Nabateans is that the water cisterns were actually below the rock cut tombs. I remember pointing this out this week. And I remember pointing out, and everybody don't forget to like and subscribe and watch. I remember pointing out this week that when you think about the Nabateans, it's a different interchange in history. So we're looking back 2,000 years ago. The real height of the Nabateans was just before the Romans invaded the Nabatean world. Petra, southern Jordan, actually the Nabateans world spread all the way to the foothills of Syria, and also to the gates of Egypt, and into the deserts of the Arabian Peninsula. So that gives you an idea. And the strange thing is, back to this point, that in other cultures, like the Etruscans, Italy, in other cultures like the Romans, the catacombs under Rome, like the Greeks, burials underneath the ground. Unlike those three civilizations, and the Egyptians as well, Egyptians, burials underground. The Nabateans put their burials above ground. There are lots of exceptions, but they put them above ground. And the water cisterns and the water storage was actually below the burial chambers. And I felt this was absolutely amazing. This was absolutely fascinating, because it's almost as if this was a culture that had turned things on its head. And in many ways, when we think about the Nabateans, their priority was water and not so much the afterlife, which is in great contrast with the likes of the Egyptians, great contrast with the likes of the Romans, but probably on par maybe with the Incan civilization, because the Incans, even though the Incans were, were very much into their burial, they were very different if you compare it with the ancient Egyptians. The Incans had lots of water channels, and they had lots of water storage facilities. This is the Incan world. And the Incan, we've gone on to another people now altogether, but don't worry about it. At Cuzco, Chile today, not Chile, Peru, get my countries right. Peru, Cuzco, capital of Peru. It's the government in Peru have said, right, we're going to reinstate the Incan water systems because we need them to supply water to our cities. And you're thinking, wow, the Incan water systems must have been really fine and really great. So I'm going to change my background. I'm going to change my backdrop again. So we love this image. Oh, also, if any of you are fans of Star Wars, this looks like a backdrop for a Star Wars film, actually. I don't think it was ever used in a Star Wars film, but there you go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to chuck another little image up there, and everyone put their remarks up there and comments. I'm going to show you, like I used so many images this week, and I think somebody commented that it's the most images they've ever seen in one of my lectures, which is quite a compliment. But I'm this one, that one there. Yeah, we'll use this one as a backdrop. Not really what I wanted. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show this one as a backdrop. Is this got everything I wanted? Oh, yes. Nice. What I've been talking about with the burial chambers above ground and the temples above ground, because that's what they are, completely carved into the solid rock. So the civilization of Petra going back to about 600 years BC, thereabout. And the Nabateans is an independent world up to around 106 AD. We're really precise there. In fact, the founding of the Nabatean state, Petra, and so on. I was reading a source that said, I think of something like 585, 586 BC. Now, how the hell do they know that, right? But we know precisely the Nabatean world's an independent sort of state, ended around 106, yeah? Because Emperor Trajan invaded the Nabatean world and absorbed it into the Roman Empire, Pax Romana and all that. And it was probably that the Romans conquered the Nabatean world, stopped their independence, that the Nabatean city of Petra and all their other cities went into major decline, because the is very delicate water. It's a very balanced thing, very precious. We need water to survive. We all know that. But when you think about the Nabateans, water was actually part of their trade as well, trading in water. I need to mention something else as well. I could try and put so much into this hour. So there's something else I'd like to mention before we go on to that, is actually what you can see. You can clearly see these rock cut tombs. And I tell you what, if I can get my little gadget up on the screen, it's great doing Zoom. Oh, I can't get my gadgets, but this here, if you follow the cursor, that's a cistern. That's an entrance to a cistern. That's a cistern there. And this is, they would have flash floods. So what the Nabateans decided all the way back was that, they were going to work alongside Mother Nature with the water. They weren't going to work against it. The Romans worked against Mother Nature with water. The Romans would build straight linear aqueducts and so on, and then try to bring the water to the cities. Well, the Nabateans' idea was the water was already in the city. You just had to save it and conserve it and use it, and so on and so on. So this great thing that you've got these tombs above and you've got the cisterns below. and the idea that the bodies would rot and putrefaction and would contaminate the water, that's not going to happen simply because it's so dry and arid above ground. The bodies are going to go into a state of non-putrefaction. They're going to dry out quite quick, and therefore they're not going to contaminate the water sources. So anyway, everyone keep putting stuff up there as well, and it's great to have 10 people with me today, and please like and subscribe. That, you know, this support is really appreciated. I'm going to make a statement now, which I made in the week, and as this is going out live on YouTube, and yes, I'm live, and this is and I know there are a few of our friends from Arabia. I know there's one or two joined us today. I'm going to make this statement. Be very careful what I say. Today, the Arabian Peninsula is very wealthy, and that wealth is derived from oil, and that's obviously a given. Lots of wars over that oil, and in 50 years' time, if the Arabian Peninsula weren't thinking the way I'm going to tell you they're thinking, the Arabian Peninsula would be one of the poorest parts of the world. Say nonsense, it's not nonsense. But what the Arabian states like Bahrain and Saudi Arabia and Kuwait are actually thinking is that they're now going to work very much into hydrology and the hydraulics of water, like the Nabateans did. Not just desalination. Every drop of water that comes from the sky is now going to be stored and now going to be conserved. And with that, it's likely that the Arabian Peninsula will move from a reliance on water, will move from a reliance on petroleum, oil, and so on, and they will move on to their chief export being water. So in 50 years' time, those oil tankers will be transporting water to parts of the world that desperately need water. And it's the technology and money that the Arabian Peninsula have got now that they can put that into trading in water. So this sounds really bizarre, but it doesn't sound bizarre because what we do know when we think about the Bedouins, Nabateans, and the Bedouins today, their skills in conserving, storing, trading water from 2,000 years ago is really relevant today. It's almost as if history has repeated itself, that the skills to understand water and the technology are coming back from the past. So we learn from the past. This is the reason why we do archaeology, isn't it, Marion? Because we've got to learn from archaeology to help us enrich the future. And this is what they're doing, understanding the Nabateans. So what I'd like to do, and I've actually this video has actually gone out when I recorded 2 of my lessons in the week out of the 6. So if you go onto my YouTube channel, you can actually find that recording, and please subscribe and like as well. I'm going to change the image in the background as well again, and look at a little bit in regards to these water systems. And or is that what I do at this minute? Hang on a minute. So this is what I'm going to show you this. It's great. My head is poking above the water now. I'm in this very cloudy water. Now, the Nabateans stored their water, millions of gallons of water. And it's likely that there are as many cisterns in that sort of canyon, which opens up from the canyon of the crescent moon the Treasury building, which we'll just have a quick look at as well. We've got to put that in there anyway. And lots of their water storage facilities are really finely carved. These are obviously below the tombs. And lots of the writers were saying about the Nabateans, particularly about Petra and some of their other sites and their water storage, that they did their damnedest to hide their water. But I actually don't agree with that statement, because what we see is that the Nabateans carved out clefts in the rock and created little dams, which people could see. The Nabateans worked alongside Mother Nature in those natural crevices, and then they moved the water off into these systems. They use the terrain, the topography, to allow the water to be stored. So all those wonderful things are actually going on. And any visitors to the city would have been aware of these water storage systems. It said that when you would enter Petra itself, it said that you would then be met with people with big canteens full of water. And those canteens would be animal skin canteens, or the stomach of a goat. And as you enter Petra itself, this is the interesting thing about, one of the interesting things about the Nabateans. Traders coming into the city of Petra, trading their wares wherever they were. Before they could sell their wares, the Nabateans are selling you something. They're selling you water. Because the person selling their wares at this point would be thirsty. So the Nabateans are making money out of you before you sell your own goods. And that's an enterprising people. That's the Arabian mindset, I think. You know, you go down the bazaars of Damascus, and you're being sold things all the time. And this is how that world has made itself really wealthy. What I need to do, actually, I need to show you another image. And Sonia, nice of you to join us. And cisterns seem to be common in their area. Sonia, can I just go off on a little bit of a tangent a minute, right? You've caused me to have a tangent. I've got a couple of things I'm building up a minute, right? And I just wanted to show you a plan, but Sonia, you've distracted me. So here we go. And Marion, at the end, there's a question I want to ask you as well. So it's about analysis, but we'll leave that at the end. So I've got questions myself. So I need to. There's a point I want to make now. I've gone all over the place a minute, but that's me as an archaeologist. I like to be enthused by what other people are saying. Before we look at this plan, I was going to want to look at. This is a rather interesting image, because if you go to somewhere like Cyprus, anywhere in the world, if you find holes like this, immediately you would think burial chamber. In Cyprus, I've been to Cyprus many times. My parents have got a home in Cyprus. So you would go to Cyprus and you'd see these rock cut holes in the ground, burial chamber. You know, I've been in lots of them. You find bones, burial chambers, right? Tomb of the Kings, Paphos, burial chamber. This is the point, you see. The Nabateans, everything under the ground was a cistern. The rock cut stuff above was the chambers. So that's everything on its head. The Nabateans did things very differently and needed to. For those that don't know where we are, Petra, this gives you an idea for those that have just joined us. Again, don't forget to subscribe and like. I'm sorry I've got to say this thing YouTube tell us to do. And look at this. I love this. I love this little plan, right? And the reason why I love this little plan is that as you enter, which is known as the Sikh or the Sikh, it's spelled the Sikh, SYK or SIQ. I got the wrong pronunciation. I'm sorry about that. But the Valley of the Crescent Moon opening up into this huge sort of wadi like landscape is great. So you go down this very narrow valley, and as you're going down this very narrow canyon, let's call it, then you'd come to the treasury. And the treasury is a rather interesting building, which we will come on to in a few moments. Actually, we can't do Petra without showing the rose red city, the building, the treasury, Temple of the Crescent Moon. We can't do that. But I just want to mention that I want to show you as well a bridge, an image of a bridge that no longer exists today. So we'll show you that. And as you go down here as well, another point I want to chuck in there is that on the left, as you go down the valley, you the canyon, there's a rock cut canal that runs all the way along that follows the contours of the landscape. It doesn't act along the contours of the landscape that the Romans would do with an aqueduct. The Nabateans did something very different. It was cut, gouged out of the rock, and it wasn't damaged for the flash floods that would go through the Sikh, the valley of the Crescent Moon. And then you actually come into the landscape where you would see all the way cut into the rocks, the tombs, and then underneath that you'd see the little crevices and cracks of the cisterns where the water would be drained off. And then you see a mighty theatre. Hopefully I've got time to show you the theatre. So much I want to chuck in here. And then you've got the colonnaded street, and you've got the wonderful temple and the wonderful city gate. Oh my God, it's absolutely amazing. But as my friend from the Czech Republic would say, amazing, she would say. So what I'm going to do now, I want to change my screen again, as one does. And if we go to, please do, water holders. Yes. And everybody, don't forget to subscribe and like as well. Let's change what we're, let's change and show us this image. There's lots of images I could show you, but let's show the one that is from a weird angle. So you're looking at that. This one quickly. This itself is, this would be what you'd see in the Indiana Jones film Last Crusade. Is great. Indiana Jones heading towards this temple, and then he heads out. Job done. But the image I actually want to show you is going through down below. I love this one. I love this. It cuts off the bottom bit because that's Zoom for you. Zoom likes you to have big screens, and unfortunately I'm missing the bottom bit, but don't worry. So you can't see it here, but oh, hang on, can you all see that? Now on this drawing, now this was drawn in 1842 by David Roberts. This is in a wonderful publication. If you can see that, it's called Footsteps by Bruce Norman. There you go. And what you can see in here is at the top, at the top of the sepulchre itself, there's an orb, which you can't see on this photograph, but there's an orb, right? And since then, they've added another column because back in 1842, it was lacking one of its columns. But it said that Bedouins would fire at that, wanting to get their treasure back. After all, it was their treasure in the first place because the Bedouins created the city. But it was a solid stone orb, and it's all cut out of the rock, and nothing came out of it because it was solid, no gold. Right? But it had been gold leaf on this. It had been beautifully painted and decorated as well. Before I get into this in a little bit more, actually, hopefully you can see that illustration as well. Yeah, this is also David Roberts as part of the expedition with Burkhard in 1842. That's the bridge that spans the Seek, and unfortunately that has now collapsed now. These are all illustrated in this wonderful book. And it was in 1839, 1842 that there was the first Western expedition to see and to sketch and to draw this landscape for the first time. The Westerners for the first time visiting this. And again, I love this. There's a map there as well. Okay, there's the Seek at the bottom coming in. You've got the theatre, and in the middle then you've got the city itself, colonnades, and all the rest of it. Love it. Love this book. So back to this here. I'm just going to check if there's any messages. Back to this as well. I think one of the great things with this is the way it's been constructed. There are a number of these as well. Numbers like this, direct dimensions and so on. Lots of these types of carvings, but this is by far one of the three that is the really best preserved of the Nabatean architecture. And basically the process would have been that they would have erected scaffolding, normal, the type of scaffolding that they use in the Middle East today, long wooden poles with planks and all the rest of it, all bound together. Great, love it. So this was all carved with scaffolding, and after they had completed it, they were reminded that this might need maintenance. So on the side there, on both sides, you've got these little hand holes and little foot holes. So you can imagine the architect said, "Oh, Ismat, right? Ismat." Because these were Aramaic speaking people. These were Aramaic people. They still are today, right? So you can say, Asmat, up there, you didn't paint that little bit up there. It needs to be repainted. So instead of putting the scaffolding up again, which would take a few hours, right? He's going to clamber up the side and repaint it. Job done. Excellent. And when you think about that, you think, well, on modern multi-story buildings, you put up a multi-story building. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's lovely. And then you've got to maintain it. How do you maintain that building? Well, the Nabateans thought ahead. You can maintain it because you put sort of ready-made maintenance holes on the side. And I think that's a wonderful sort of thing, wonderful sort of feature. So what I'm gonna do now, what I'd like to do is actually show you more of their water channels, which would be really good. And Jessica's going, can I speak to you at the end? You mentioned a project in our emails. Right, okay. What I'll do, Jessica, I will phone you because we need to look at that possible research project somewhere nearby. And you guys can naturally hear about it when we do a GoPro film. So anyway, carrying on. Let's change my image. My God, time has really flied today. So we haven't. I think we've got about 20 minutes left actually. So I'm gonna change. What I think I'm gonna do now is after this slide, I might actually show you some of the watercourse slides, then I'll show you some images of the city. So we'll show you an image, watercolor slides, and show you an image of the city. And I haven't had many questions really, which I would like for you to put some questions up. So it's this one, which is actually a bit of a mixture, really. Bingo, hang on. Well, you can see the center of the city there looking out. But that's not the one I wanted. I actually wanted, here we go. I like this one. Love it. I like this one. And the reason why I like this image is that it almost portrays everything that I want to get across. It portrays the tombs cut into the rock, surrounding the heart of the city, the cisterns underneath. Great. And do you know what? They're actually still finding lots of tombs cut in that solid rock even today. You'd think that they'd found them all in plain sight, but they're still finding them today. Finding lots of water systems as well. And somebody asked, I've been asked this a couple of times this week, what was the population of Petra? Well, I think it's quite possible to estimate that question, work out that question. But we would need to find all the water systems. And I think the population of Petra was probably about 20,000 to keep everybody in water 24/7, 365 days of the year. There was water. You could hear little fountains and stuff in Petra. And again, you might see the columns there. The columns were there, not a statement of power, a statement of gaiety, but a statement of to keep people shaded. You know, people were shaded, people were covered from the sun. And if you were in the heart of Petra back in the day, you wouldn't have been able to see the tombs. You would see columns, buildings, 3-4-story buildings around you, trees growing everywhere. 30 years ago, there was only one tree growing in the heart of Petra. Now there's loads of trees. There's hundreds of trees growing there because they're actually starting to reinstate the water systems. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to share one of the documents that I was sharing in the week. And by the way, the person who's got the copyright for these images, in retrospect, they are wonderful images, and thanks for their use. And no insult is caused. But there is, you know what? When I'm doing this, I'm trying to fit a 2-and-a-bit-hour lecture into 1 hour. And I would like to mention that next week we'll be doing a fascinating lecture about the lost civilizations and people of the Amazon basin. And we'll be looking at Terra Petra, which is Black Earth. But you know what? Going all over the place, right? I've got a poem I'd like to read to you about Petra. And apparently I'm told that even though I said that this isn't a famous poem, I was reminded that the last line of this poem is one of the famous lines in poetry. I'm going to read out this poem, and it's very, very rare that you can find a poem that you can read off and be able to be word perfect in the first reading. This poem is by John William Burgon. And anyone who wanted to hear this now, sit down, close your eyes, think of the image in front of you. And this was by John William Burgon. This was written in 1845. It won the Oxford University's prestigious Newdigate Prize in 1845, and it goes as follows. Here we go. It seems no work of man's creative hand by labour wrought as wavering fancy planned, but from the rock, as if by magic grown, eternal, silent, beautiful, alone. Not virgin white like that old Doric shrine, where erst Athena held her rites divine. Not saintly grey, like many a minster fane, that crowns the hill and consecrates the plain, but rose red as if the blush of dawn, that first beheld them were not yet withdrawn, the hues of youth upon a brow of woe, which man deemed old 2000 years ago. Match me such marvel save in eastern clime, a rose-red city half as old as time. And I'm told that last line, a rose-red city half as old as time, is quite a famous line when you're thinking about Petra, the rose-red city. I've got a little bit more I'd like to do. As I said, I've got those things I'd like to read out to you all and show you. So that's where we're going to go. We're going to lose my beautiful face for a couple of moments. I know you're a top #1 fan and you tune into this because you want to see me. So you're going to lose my face for a few moments. So I'm going to screen share these images for a very short time. And here we go. And that's not working. So I'm going to cut that a moment, talking to myself. That's because it wasn't up on the screen. Let's screen share now. Bingo. As we're coming to the end now, again, if you put your questions in now, then we can nicely slide into them. And don't forget to watch the other video that's associated with this from my channel. Got hundreds of videos on there. So you're showing this now. It's a wonderful article. It's ancientwatertechnologies.com. So this is what we're doing now. And I'll just scroll through this quite quickly. So what you find is that, you know, they say that their technology is hidden, which you think, okay, you put a door on that, it looks like a tomb. But the technology today, the old original technology, is actually being reinstated by the Jordanian government. And what's massive to me is the Valley of the Crescent Moon, the Seek that leads to the treasury in Petra and the landscape beyond. And that's actually cut out the rock. So as the rain falls, the water just dives into here off the rock, and it flows into this canal which ran with water 24/7, 365 days of the year. When the floods were coming, when the rains were coming, they would uncap the channel, and then after there's water flowing in it from the cisterns, they would recap it off. What the Nabateans quickly learned was that from their Bedouin ancestors, that you can't be in this valley, this gorge, this canyon, when there's heavy rains, because you could just be swept away and your body would be smashed against the rock. So they worked with nature, loads of images, they're working with it. You can see that's carved into the rock. It's not linear like a Roman aqueduct, it's carved into the rock. And what they've got is, looking at this as well, they're working with nature. So instead of creating their own gorges and so on, they're finding natural gorges, and they're damming it off. And as it's torrential rain, they're allowing the water to flow off, but then they're blocking up the sluice again. And then the interesting thing is as the water overflows, it's then graded. So some of this goes into a water channel, and the other water is then graded into cisterns down these steps. So it's not quite rapid, that it's going to fill the cistern up quite rapidly, or it's going to go into a basin, and that basin itself is going to have gravel and sands which can filter the water into a cistern. So you have almost clear, pure water. It's great. So these people really knew what they were doing. And it's utilizing and using that landscape. As I say, I'm going through this really quick. And again, it's working with Mother Nature. It's working with her. And it's that thing that the Nabateans found all the cracks and crevices, and they knew that those cracks and crevices, if you build a cistern nearby, the water's just going to go into the cisterns and it's going to be stored. There's nothing wasted. There you go. This is from another little crevice where the water's just gradiating down steps, maintenance steps on the right, and it's gradiating down the steps. One of the descriptions I had was that if I can put this across, they would have a funnel dug into the ground where it tapers off at the bottom, and when it would tapered off at the bottom, it would channel off, or it would form into there would be gravels, and that would drip into the cistern. The point is that would be filled with gravels, smaller gravel again, sand, soil above that, plant a tree, the roots would keep it all together. When it rained, the water would, or the water itself would replenish the tree, or the tree would be watered throughout the year. And then the point is that the 95% of water wasted would go into a cistern, and that would be used. It's great. No waste. The question I had the entire of this week was, what would you do with human urine? And I'm just thinking, well, you're going to use it if you look at sort of Pompeii, human urine itself is used in the laundry business at Pompeii, and you're actually paid for your urine. So that's your pee dealt with, your animal pee dealt with. So where would your human waste go on? That'd be spread on the field. Perfect. And just this image in front of us here as well, you've got a dam further up alongside a temple known as the triclinium, which is in ancient Greek, a triclinium is a dining room, but this is a dining burial chamber. And it's interesting. You've got the dam directly next door to the tomb. So again, go on to my videos, look at this. Settling tanks, as you go down, again, gradiating the water, 3 grades, your water run off directly into a cistern. This would grade down the steps, and then that would gently go into your cisterns. There's great stuff. Lots of channels. Again, tombs, cisterns underneath, great. Using the rock with the fissures to drain off the water, again, lovely stuff. And all this tombs and valleys, and it's great that you've got the cisterns and you go up to see the tomb. Wonderful. We could go on with this, and we could go on and on and on, but this is great. This is a reinstated water system today. There's water there today. These still work after 2,000 years. They even invented some kind of waterproof cement that they could line all the systems if there was any chance of any leaks. They didn't like their leaks. And today they're reinstating the reservoirs that the Nabateans used to use 2,000 years ago, and the routes into the city. And what they've got is a sense of going through these quick. The one I want to show you, there you go. This is great. So the water would drain off through a series of treatment settling tanks. So you get rid of the crappy, all the sediment and stuff at the top. It would be drained into another system, and then you would draw out more or less crystal clear water at the bottom. We do this today, but they did it back then. So what we're going to do now, I want to, again, making the best use of the natural surrounding, working with Mother Nature as the water's draining off, being stored is great. They really knew their water. But this is Roman technology. When the Romans had overtaken Petra, their technology didn't work with Mother Nature. It was just to store water. But the Nabateans stored water alongside Mother Nature. And where the Romans would have a block arch, the Nabateans carved their arches out of rock, almost as if you've got a stone structure with blocks, obviously there's going to be leakage. The water's going to go between the beds of the rock. The Nabateans said, we're not going to do that. We're just going to go into the rock. So what I would like to do now is stop that sharing. I don't know if anyone's actually given any comments. So have we got any more comments? Yes, we do. What I'm going to do, I'm going to, before we go on to the last bit, very last image, 2 images, I'm going to read what we've got here. So thank you for that. It is a lovely poem. These appear similar to the dams of today, but the dams of today are not as good as the Nabatean one. If you look at the Hoover Dam in California, it bastardizes the landscape. It forces the landscape to have all the water into these places instead of using the valleys and the canyons across the Americas to actually store water, which is probably the better way. So did burial chambers, so here we go. So not burial chambers, but dams and cisterns. So the dams and cisterns are underneath the burial chambers above. Is it possible they were used as burial chambers after things began to dry out in the area? No. No. Or maybe yes, but the problem is because they're still used as water cisterns today, it's quite difficult to understand that at any point they were actually used as burial chambers. And we do know one thing about the Nabateans, Sonia, is that the Nabateans were into cremation. So even if any of their bodies were laid out into the tombs above, that was only part of their burial custom. The Nabateans did practice cremation as well. So if half the tombs within that landscape of Petra were actually cremations and the other half were inhumations, obviously by the time the bodies were placed to rest, putrefaction wasn't the case because the dry, arid air would have dried out the bodies anyway. An earthen water purification system, Sonia, yes, you're right. That is very right. So everybody, if everybody can like or subscribe. Oh, we've got a dislike this week. Oh, absolutely terrible. But actually, what YouTube say, if you've got a dislike, time for improvement. So what we're going to do now, I'd like to just show you get my words out. I'm going to, I had a moment then, I lost what I was doing. So just like to show you these 2 images. Look at this amphitheater behind me. It's absolutely amazing. I'm in the middle of the amphitheater. It's great, isn't it? Look at that. Absolutely wonderful. A stone-cut amphitheater. We do get these in other parts of the world. There's a great one at Akrotiri in Paphos, but not as great as this. The perfection, the sense of symmetry with their carving is unbelievable. And showing you one last image, folks. Okay, one last image. It's this one. Well, actually, I'll do these quick. That's a temple, the temple in the heart of the Petra landscape. Very great temple. You can see the steps. This is all block work, so they were great buildings in lots of ways. Showing you This, a colonnade, those columns, veranda above, meant to keep you cool. This is the way it worked. And I tell you what, I absolutely love this next image. Let's show you this next image. Okay, quickly. Oh my God, I can't stop. Inside these tombs, the color itself is actually the color of the rock. They didn't need to decorate their inside of the tombs. They and their temples, they just use the natural symmetry of the rock. Is a great way. And then this last image. Bingo. I bloody love this. It's frigging awesome. Absolutely awesome. This is absolutely awesome. You know, marching in through one of the gates at Petra, and you got the pedestrian either side, and just think you'd have had people selling you water as you go in, and into a city that's green, and a great oasis in the desert. The carving, the linearness, the columns is absolutely amazing. That. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to give you all my attention. And again, this is all recorded. So before we call it a day today, are there any other questions? Are there any questions at all? I'm going to type that there. Before we finish, are there any questions? Are there any questions, guys? Have you all enjoyed this presentation this week? I'm gonna mention that next week again we'll be looking at the missing peoples of the Amazonia. And what I'm going to do, if this doesn't screw up for me, I'm going to try and get this video up here and share it. And if I can, whilst I'm waiting for people to comment, I'm going to put this on there. There's the video, which I recorded in a week. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. What have people said? Pillars used for cooling. Yes, obviously people walking underneath these colonnades with the veranda above and being sheltered from the elements. That's correct. No questions. Lovely presentation as always. What I'll do, Jessica, is that I tell you what, Jessica, this is my phone number, so phone me in about 10 minutes and we will have a gas about that project. And anyone else can phone me as well, but obviously not in 10 minutes. So any other questions, folks? Any other questions? Any other questions? Link is to video. I was wondering the same. Is the color difference due to different stuff? It's all the same sandstone, right? It's all the same sandstone, but due to the way the sandstone's formed, if the sandstone is formed in a lake, a very sandy lake type landscape inland, sandstone's formed inland, limestone's formed out at sea, granite, volcano, 3 types. Actually, there's more than that. But anyway, so basically, when the sands form within the lake and they're exposed to the sun, the sunlight, the light, it turns red because of the sesquite oxides. But then when it's quickly buried over, you could have black sands, you could have green sands, and this is the natural color of the rock. What I'm going to say, Marion, I will send you. I will send you look at your Instagram. So I'll ask that question on Instagram. Anyone else like to say anything before we go? We'll give it a few more minutes. Before I go. Many thanks. Have you all learnt and enjoyed today? I've really enjoyed this one today after the events of last week. You know, that's really good. I've really enjoyed that. Yeah, I know you love the rock, so you should. So what I'm going to do now, my pleasure, Sonia. Totally enjoyed the presentation today. Many, many thanks. So what I'm going to say, I know there's 6 of you left now. So I'm going to say goodbye to goodbye to Pat, Christine, Jessica, Sonia, Marion, if you're still with us, and anybody else, and anyone else. And Jessica, phone me in 10 minutes. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to sign off now. And that's been a blast. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm off. If I can find the off button. Maybe I'm not going to be able to find it. Take care, guys. See you all next week. Next week, Amazon archaeology. Good. I need to lie down in the darkened room now. So that was very good. Thank you very much for that. I'm off. I'm going to find it. And 3, 2. It's always a problem signing this off, actually. So here we go. End the stream. Good.